All right, let's talk about how pretty much everything around us is made. Turns out, the materials that make up our world are created in one of two very different ways, either a frantic, all-out sprint or a slow, patient, deliberate marathon.
So just look around you for a second. You probably have a plastic water bottle nearby, or maybe you're wearing a nylon jacket. On the surface, they feel like totally different things, right? But what if I told you they share a deep, fundamental secret about how they were built, right from the molecular level? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into. And that secret all comes down to something called a polymer. Now, don't let the sciencey name throw you off. The easiest way to think about a polymer is just as a giant chain, a really, really long molecule made by linking together tons of smaller, identical pieces.
And if a polymer is the chain, what are the individual links? Well, those are called monomers. These are the small, simple building blocks that get connected over and over again to create the final material. So polymer is the chain, monomer is the link. Simple as that.
Okay, so we've got our building blocks, our monomers. But how do you actually get them to link up into that final long chain? This is where it gets really cool, because there isn't just one way to do it. There are two completely different recipes for making it happen.
And that brings us to our two big approaches. On one side, we have what's called chain growth, which we're going to call the sprint because it is ridiculously fast. On the other side, we've got step growth, our marathon, a much slower, more methodical process. Two very different ways to get to the finish line.
So let's start with our sprinter, chain growth. The name of the game here is just pure speed. It's all about building incredibly long polymer chains and doing it in the blink of an eye. So, how does it get so fast? Imagine a runaway train. There's one super active engine right at the front, and it's just barreling down a track that's lined with train cars, our monomers, snatching them up one by one. All the action happens at that one single hyperactive point. It's like a zipper closing, just one fluid motion.
This whole thing happens in three really distinct stages. First up is initiation. A special initiator molecule acts like a spark plug, kicking everything off by creating that active engine on a single monomer. Then comes propagation, and this is the sprint itself. That one active chain just goes wild, adding monomers and growing extremely long, very, very fast. And finally, termination. The reaction gets capped, the engine switches off, and that one massive chain is complete.
And here's the key takeaway from this process. In a chain growth reaction, you basically have just two things in your mixture: a whole bunch of unreacted single monomers and a few fully formed super long polymer chains. It's an all-or-nothing game.
And you absolutely know these materials. We're talking about polyethylene, that's the stuff that makes plastic bags and bottles. Polystyrene, which you know from foam cups, and PVC, used for all sorts of pipes and window frames. All made by this super fast, one-at-a-time sprint.
All right, so that was the sprint. Now it's time to meet our second contender, the marathon, also known as step growth. If chain growth was an impatient sprinter, step growth is a methodical planner, totally focused on slow and steady construction.
The analogy here is completely different. Picture a crowded dance floor full of individual dancers. Those are our monomers. At first, some individuals pair up. Then those couples link up with other couples to form little groups of 4. And those groups find another group of 4, and so on. Everybody gets involved right from the beginning, all across the entire dance floor.
So unlike the sprint, this is a really gradual buildup. Monomers form small pairs, and then these small chains slowly combine with each other. The critical thing here is that the average chain length of everything in the mix grows together bit by bit. You only get those truly massive, high-strength polymer chains at the very, very end of the race when all the smaller groups finally connect. And what kind of materials get made this way? Oh, just some of the most famous ones. This methodical process creates really tough, highly ordered materials like nylon used in clothing and ropes, polyesters, which make up countless fabrics, and strong polycarbonates, the stuff used for things like shatterproof eyeglass lenses and CDs.
So we've got a sprint and we've got a marathon. But why does any of this matter? Well, it's because the way you build the chain, fast and singular, or slow and collective, directly shapes the final properties of the material. The process dictates everything, from how flexible it is to how tough it is.
Let's just put it all together side by side. For chain growth, our sprint, the speed is explosive. It grows one chain at a time, and you get those massive polymers immediately. For step growth, our marathon,
It's a slow, gradual process where all the chains grow together, and you only get those really long, strong polymers at the very end. Think polyethylene versus nylon, two totally different journeys to the same destination.
So really, the big takeaway is this. Making a material isn't just about what you put in the pot. It's not just about the ingredients, the monomers. The recipe, the actual instructions you follow, whether it's a sprint or a marathon, is just as important in deciding what you get at the end.
And that really leaves us with a fascinating question, doesn't it? Now that we understand the two fundamental recipes for building the world around us, it makes you wonder, by tweaking these methods, or maybe even inventing new ones, what kinds of incredible materials will we be able to design next?